Good morning, YouTube. It is the 22nd of February. Back on the 300 Saturday. I wish I could do this full time and get something done, a lot done. I have off camera been retrieving some hydraulic lines, and one of them I'd already been working with, and those are leaking on my carpet there. I'd already been working with here. This is from the machine that I unbolted. I cleaned it up to check its integrity. The machine that I disassembled about a year ago. Working on making this a fuel line. I cut the end off because this is going to be the end down by the fuel tank, and I intend to use rubber. I took a piece in to Napa. I intend to use rubber to connect the fuel line and the carburetor, so a short piece. Kind of redoing something I already did, because as I was working in this area, and you can see I have all of this stuff ready to go back on. We're really ready to put this big pulley on. And here is the fuel line that I ran, and really nothing wrong with it. This is actually a Massey fuel line I got from them. I don't know how old it is. It was actually for Williams 510, so it's been here a while in a box. And honestly, it would work, but it's kind of been bugging me because I still have these loose here. They get mounted, these hydraulic steer lines. I got to put that on. That'll be a video in itself of the RPM readout. We'll go through that in a later video. That being said, this here goes back behind the saddle tank, ends up back here. It actually had a pressed fitting and comes down there. I have since bent one to come down here, and it would be all steel behind the saddle tank, just like these here that are mounted solid for the steering line. So having said and done all that, been going back and forth about fishing metal lines through here, bending them and connecting them and having that solid. I have bought a tubing bender at Harbor Freight. Bought a fresh cutter at Harbor Freight. I think I had one, but it's a lot smaller. The inside of the tube is in, I doubt it'll focus, in excellent condition. They're nice and shiny, and I think they will hold up to fuel. I was worried about the integrity of the outside, being that they're old, so I've been sanding on it and checking it out, and I think it will pass. I went out to the 550, took off these two steering lines under the cab because they have some right angle fittings and they're also bent at a right angle. So I think I'm going to be fishing these under the motor and bending them where I need to, and they will already have my fittings to connect them together. Alright, we're back up in the engine compartment and kind of close. Here's the rubber line I took off, anticipating cutting this down here, putting a little flare on it, and then a rubber hose over. This will become a 90-degree fitting. I had to take this motor mount out, and because I wanted to get the line behind it, and working on running it down through here and we won't cut this off until we know where we need it here to connect our rubber, short piece of rubber on for vibration. So kind of went a different route than what I was planning to do. You can see it right down there, going out. Now let me go down and show. So I am bringing it out right here. I have a mark here where I want to try to bend it 90 degrees down and then start following this. We do have to be mindful of our cylinder speed mount bracket, which will go here. So we shouldn't really get in the way. And so I'm going to have to, hopefully this will have another bend in it, straighten this back out and try to follow the contour here and meet up here to connect it. That's the hope. If not, we'll have to maybe cut this, put a flared fitting on here like this. I've cleaned these up and I've misplaced them. I don't know. I put them somewhere for safekeeping, so I have to find them. So we might be doing that if we can't get this. Got such a nice bend on it there. But I think that's going to be the better route to follow these lines. Come right out underneath the engine there. So that's my hope and goal here. I haven't been videoing this much because it's kind of a brain teaser. We've got that laying in there now, and a nice right angle bend from the Harbor Freight bender. So now it's back to seeing if we can straighten this without breaking it. This stuff actually bends pretty easy. I haven't went over much of the procedures, but I'm liking this fit so far. My intention is to brace this off of the motor mount that goes right here, and then to also put probably rubber hose, thin rubber hose around it for protection and insulation. I've never had any problem with vapor locking, but I don't know how this metal line is going to respond with heat and such. That's my thoughts anyway. So I think it's going better than I thought. That's usually when the floor falls out from under you. So we'll see, because now we're back to redirecting our big line. This area allows me to use the bender and put the correct bend in that, I do believe. There we go. It's coming together. Alright. Now I think that is going to work pretty good. Oh, the dog just talking. So that will be coming along there. And following that contour. So I think we did pretty good there. I have gathered up some supplies, and we cut our end off that where it was bent. There was actually some pitting there I didn't like, and I bent it back out of the 90. So I'm kind of glad that's coming out of there. Going to have rid of that. I don't know if you can see it there or not. It's pretty pitted. So we'll be cutting that back here to where it's really nice and fresh. I am repurposing line from the combine we disassembled and the 550 out there. I went and found some hose. This goes behind the saddle tank, and it's going to be hard to clamp that down. So this hose fits perfectly on it. It's snug, but it ain't too tight. You can slide it on with a little PV blaster inside of it. Should last a long time that way. So I'm going to flare the end. These are just tools that I have around here. I did a practice flare here. This is an original. This is a practice flare here on a piece of scrap. I think it did pretty good. We're going to see. Don't want to over flare it, but yet it's got to be flared enough so that it mates up to one of these, which that does look pretty good. Right there. So I think we're going to be in the zone, if you will. So I'm going to flare that now. This is, I believe, for copper pipe. It is a little bit too big, or the pipe is a little bit too big here, but I think it's going to work. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of hard to get it exact in the camera. Clamp that over and then run this down. Being steel, it takes a little bit of strength. I would rather have to reclamp it than to over flare it. So let's check it out. I'm going to give it just a little bit more before I take it out of there. And hopefully I didn't go too far. So that's how I've been making it. Oh, gotta get this off and those spread apart. So I think based on that, I think that looks pretty good right there. See if that comes up over it. So I'm happy with that fit. I don't think we went too far. That comes right through the threads. So I'm happy with that. So that's how I've been making these connections. So now we have this behind the saddle tank. Now we'll do another fit. I feel what this rubber line is going to do, it allows me to bend it. Also, it's kind of like a spring wrapped around it, which is another trick to bending this. But it's also going to allow me to get right onto my bolts, put some clamps around it, or zip ties right to the line. And it's going to protect it from vibration where I can't get behind the saddle tank to secure it. So let me see if I can show you. See, there's no way to get back there. And that rubber line is then going to protect that from moisture and vibration. That's my theory. So what I have to do now is I have to make a secondary line from here, following this bend to here. And I think I will be able to use what I've cut off of here. Now I'm back here at the back side of the saddle tank, and I've temporarily zip tied it right there. And the goal is to bring that down, you back up along here and get down to here where there's two holes there. That's where the old fuel pump, piston pump, used to mount. And I've got this pump and a temporary tank, which this will get redesigned when the main fuel tank, which is up there, I had it cleaned and lined. Hopefully it's doing well. That's been several years ago. And the goal is then to just use short ends of rubber hose to connect onto that, and the main line carry the fuel. And I think it will also help the fuel getting to the carburetor. I don't know if fuel can get too hot. I've never really had a problem on the 300, but It's just my thoughts that it'll help the fuel run cooler. This may not work, I don't know. Please comment. Now, I've watched some guys on YouTube. I'm by no means an expert on this at all, but this is what I had come up with to begin with. And so I just mark it kind of where I want the bender with a line, and put it in that hand bender I got from Harbor Freight and see if I can get it right. So now we'll take it back off and we'll do that. You can see we got it connected right up there to our main line. Once we have this line built, I will screw it all together and then see where I want my protection put on it. And with that being said, then we'll work on mounting it permanently. This Harbor Freight bender is nothing spectacular by any means. Kind of goes in here like this. It maxes it out on this one. It's up to 3/8, and that's about what this is. Sorry, I wasn't in frame. The mark, let's find my mark again. It's way up here. So we want that bend to be there, I believe. Let's see here. Well, we can turn this, we can turn it so because it's a straight piece. So it really ain't gonna matter where we do it. Hopefully I didn't do too much. Now we have to go back. There's my mark, so I'm right there where I want to be. Have to go back and see how we did. So let me get you guys set up there. Screw this back onto there. Looks like we're going to need to bend it just a little bit more. Not much. You can see that there, so might even be able to bring that up by hand. It's just a lot of patience and fitting, and like at lunchtime I was ready to walk away for a little bit. So take your time if you want to do this to your machines, and just be ready to be slow about it. I don't want to do this a lot, so I just kind of bought everything or what I had laying around. So this is all Harbor Freight stuff, and next time I use this, who knows when it will be. So you don't have to have the best stuff. This is just a tube cutter. Goes up to 1/8 to 1.25 inches. So I just use this, and it appears to be doing fine, and I think it was $9. So if this metal were to tear it up or something, I wouldn't be crying the blues about it. So there's what I don't need. Now I'm going to need to clean up my fittings now, clean those up, and prepare to put them on here, and then flare this. Also going to see if I can fit some protective hose on here. I don't know if I can with this turn. Alright, we got the piece on and flared. I think it turned out real well. That just looks like a perfect match, so I hope everything does not leak. And we were able, with the hose, to turn on gentle curves. So excited about that. Where it's short, I think will be good, or I can slice a piece and put around it with a zip tie. So let's check out our final fit. I'm liking it. Hopefully you guys can see that. This is looking good here. So I'm going to just have everything hand tight. I am liking this fit. I'm envisioning something like that. And it should be out of the way of the variator and all of that. So I'm envisioning something like that once we get everything in place. And now I'm going to head up into there and see about where we get this mounted, where it'll be off. I may put a 90-degree up here so that we can put hose protection all the way along the back of the motor. In an attempt to cover this all with rubber hose, I have polished it well with 200 grit sandpaper. Tried to get all the rust and debris that might catch the hose off of it. The end up by the carburetor is not going to have a flared fitting, so I went ahead and cut that off, and I'm going to attempt with oil to try and cover this whole thing with one length of hose and make these turns, because it will make it, but I don't know how successful I'm going to be. Reporting in, I got it. This is the bend over the side heading down. I've got it, this is up by the carburetor on there. Two people, we were spinning it, and we were doing pretty good, but we kind of ran out of power, and that's just a lot of hose to push along there. So what I think I'm going to do is, I've got plenty. I'm going to cut this flare off right here, push the hose on the other side, and re-flare it. And then it will be fully protected, and then we should be ready for the final install. We've got that finished, and now we're ready to get it up in there again for a fit. I'm really liking this fitment. If I really want to, I can come back. I don't think it'll be needed, but I can put little pieces and zip tie there of hose. This all fits up wonderfully. It's protected along the edges with the hose. I'm really liking this turn here, and then it heads up there under the engine, and the only seam we got is there. So we got our initial pull of the hose past this 90-degree turn. So I'm really liking that right there. Follows the contour of the other ones. Right here where we got our splices, we got a splice. We had to put one here too to get it right, because we're using used line. And coming back here, we've got hose all the way to here, and then we will be able to put and fit hose up to there and down, or if we decide to bend that end around to meet the pump down there. So I am really liking this fit. Up here at the engine compartment, comes around, does a nice 90-degree bend. Once we put the motor mount back in place, we will trim this to where we need it to be. I don't even know if we might be able to get a 90 in there and maybe a flared fitting, but I think we would want that to be, this will be vibrating terribly. I think we will want that to be a short 6-inch rubber hose, so we will probably cut it down about right here, 90-degree brass fitting, rubber hose straight down, and that way the engine can vibrate. So I think we are doing very good at this fuel line fitment, and I think it's going to be better than the old rubber one sitting in here cooking. And with this rubber lining on it, should help it last for the rest of my life, I hope. I have opted to, just because of the rubber tubing on it, to just zip tie at strategic points, and it has really brought it together. Now the only thing that might bite me in the backside is the fact that if one of these lines go bad, I got to get everything loose. And those have went bad before, but I think these are pretty decent. So I think we're doing pretty good. Final restraining clamp has been installed right there on the motor mount. Motor mount is back in place. We are good to go. It's a matter of hooking it up there at the appointed time and down below by the fuel tank. So that will conclude changing out the fuel line for the second time. Do it once, do it twice. I really like how that turned out. It's not resting on the edge of the steel. So barring anything getting in the way there, we got a couple more lines to install for the variator cylinder. Coming down here, zip tied along. All of these have been tightened. Should be good. And that concludes it. We are ready to start putting on the big pulley and the flat belt. So thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. This thing's going to get running. It's just going to be a matter of time. And we are moving along. Like, share, and subscribe for the Massey 300 restoration.